little one, let's snuggle in and listen to a story about a kind girl named Snow White and a very, very peaceful forest. Once upon a time, not so very long ago, in a land that felt like a quiet dream, there lived a sweet girl whose name was Snow White. She had hair as soft and dark as a calm night sky just before the moon comes out, lips the color of a gentle rose petal, and skin that looked as soft as the quietest snowfall you could ever imagine. Snow White had a heart that was just as kind and soft as she was. She loved gentle things, like the way the sunlight felt warm on her cheek, and the quiet humming sound a little bee makes as it visits a flower. One soft, sunny afternoon, Snow White decided to take a very quiet walk. She wasn't hurrying anywhere at all. She just felt like exploring the edge of the big, beautiful forest near her home. As she stepped under the first tall trees, the world around her seemed to grow a little softer, a little quieter. The bright sunlight filtered down through the leaves in sleepy, dappled patterns, like little golden coins scattered on the mossy ground. Every step she took felt soft on the spongy earth. She could hear the quietest sounds, maybe the soft flutter of a tiny bird's wings high up in the branches, or the gentle, almost silent whisper of the leaves saying hello to the breeze. The air smelled fresh and clean, like cool green things and damp earth. Snow White walked a little deeper, following a path that wasn't really a path, just a space between the trees where the sunlight fell brightest. It felt like walking into a great, big, peaceful hug. She wasn't afraid, not even a tiny bit. The forest felt friendly and calm, like it was wrapping its quiet arms around her. After walking for a while, just noticing the quiet beauty all around her, Snow White saw something peeking through the trees. It was a little roof and a little chimney with just a tiny wisp of soft, white smoke curling out, smelling faintly of a warm, cozy fire. It was the sweetest, tiniest cottage she had ever seen. It looked like it had grown right there, nestled into the forest floor among the flowers and the smooth gray stones. The windows were small and square, and they seemed to twinkle with a soft, warm light from inside. Snow White felt a gentle wave of curiosity wash over her, like a soft little ripple. Who could live in such a quiet, tucked-away place? She tiptoed closer, her footsteps making hardly any sound on the soft ground. Everything felt so peaceful and still. She reached the little front door, which was made of dark wood and had a tiny, smooth handle. She gently, very gently, pushed it open, and it didn't make a sound. Stepping inside, Snow White felt an immediate warmth and coziness wrap around her. The air inside smelled wonderful, maybe like warm, soft bread, or like clean wood and gentle dust motes dancing in the sunbeams that slanted through the tiny windows. The room was small and tidy, filled with tiny furniture. There was a little table with 7 little chairs, and against one wall, She saw something that made her eyes feel a little sleepy just looking at them. 7 tiny, perfect beds lined up in a row. Each bed had a soft quilt folded neatly at the foot. The colors of the quilts were gentle and calming, like soft blues and sleepy greens and quiet yellows. Snow White felt a lovely sense of peace settle over her. It felt like this little cottage was a place made just for feeling safe and cozy. She walked softly over to the beds. They looked so inviting and soft. She was feeling just a little bit tired from her gentle walk in the peaceful forest. She chose the tiny bed at the very end, which had a quilt the color of a calm lavender sky. She gently lay down on top of the quilt. Oh, it was soft. The little pillow was just right. The quiet of the cottage, the warmth from the little fire in the hearth, and the feeling of being so tucked away and safe made her eyelids feel heavy. She didn't even mean to, but Snow White closed her eyes and took a deep, soft breath. She felt herself start to drift into a soft, peaceful sleep right there on the tiny bed. As she slept, the sun outside slowly began to dip lower in the sky, casting long, gentle shadows. After a while, the door of the little cottage gently opened again. 7 figures, much smaller than Snow White, stepped quietly inside. These were the 7 kind dwarfs who lived in this quiet cottage. They had been working calmly in the nearby mountains, polishing smooth, gray stones until they gleamed softly in the light. They were gentle souls who loved the quiet of their home. When they came inside, they saw Snow White sleeping soundly on one of their tiny beds. They stopped and looked at her, their faces filled with gentle surprise and then with kindness. She looked so peaceful, so soft, so utterly asleep. One of the dwarfs, the gentlest one, whispered softly, "Look, she is sleeping." Another one, with a kind smile, whispered back, "She looks so comfortable and safe." The dwarfs quietly gathered around, making sure not to disturb her soft, peaceful slumber. They felt a warm feeling in their chests. They had never had anyone else in their quiet home before, but this girl, sleeping so soundly, felt like she belonged there. They decided, in their quiet, gentle way, that they would let her stay as long as she liked. They didn't want to wake her, so they very quietly tiptoed around their own tiny home, preparing a simple, quiet supper without making a sound. They ate their food softly, their voices just the barest whispers. Snow White slept on, wrapped in the quiet peace of the cottage. When she finally woke up, the soft light of morning was just starting to peek through the tiny windows. She stretched slowly and yawned, feeling wonderfully rested and warm. She blinked her eyes open and saw the 7 gentle faces of the dwarfs looking at her with kind smiles. They introduced themselves quietly, and Snow White smiled, feeling instantly safe and happy with these kind little people. And so, Snow White stayed in the quiet forest cottage with the 7 kind dwarfs. Her days were filled with gentle, peaceful things. She would help tidy the little cottage, arranging the tiny furniture just so, sweeping the soft, dusty floor with a little broom. She would hum gentle tunes as she did her chores, and the dwarfs loved listening to her soft singing. She would walk just outside the cottage door and gather soft, colorful wildflowers, arranging them in a little jar of water on the tiny table. The cottage always smelled sweet and fresh when Snow White was there. Sometimes she would sit by the window and watch the quiet life of the forest outside. She saw squirrels burying nuts with soft, rustling movements. She saw little birds hopping gently on the branches. She watched the leaves sway softly in the breeze. In the evenings, when the dwarfs came home from their calm work, they would all sit together quietly. Snow White would tell them gentle stories, not exciting ones, but stories about soft clouds shaped like fluffy sheep, or about the quiet journey of a little river stone. The dwarfs would listen, their eyes soft and warm, and every single night, as the sky outside turned from soft orange to sleepy pink to the deep, velvety blue of night, the forest would begin its quiet lullaby. Snow White would sit by the window or snuggle down in her tiny bed and just listen. She heard the very softest hoot of an owl far away in the quiet trees. She heard the gentle rustle of leaves as tiny creatures moved quietly in the underbrush. She heard the wind sighing softly through the pine needles, sounding like a faraway, sleepy song. The dwarfs, before they tucked into their own tiny beds, would sometimes hum a very quiet bedtime tune, just for Snow White. It was a song without any words, just soft, soothing sounds that made her feel even more cozy and sleepy. As the moon rose, big and soft, like a silver coin in the dark sky, its gentle light would stream through the little windows, making soft patterns on the floor. Snow White would feel herself getting sleepier and sleepier. Her eyes would feel heavy, like they were being gently pulled closed. The quiet of the cottage, the soft sounds of the forest, the gentle presence of her kind friends, all worked together to wrap her in a warm, sleepy blanket. She would snuggle down under the soft quilt, feeling the lovely weight of it keeping her warm. She would take a soft breath in and out, and another soft breath in and out. She felt safe. She felt loved. She felt so wonderfully, perfectly sleepy. She would whisper very softly to herself, "Good night, quiet forest. Good night, gentle trees. Good night, soft moon." And then, with a soft sigh of pure contentment, Snow White would close her eyes. Her body felt heavy and relaxed, melting into the soft mattress. Her thoughts drifted away, like little leaves floating gently down a quiet stream. She felt the sleepy calm washing over her, from the tips of her toes all the way up to the top of her head. And as the gentle lullaby of the forest and the soft humming of the dwarfs filled the quiet cottage, Snow White drifted off into the sweetest, most peaceful dreams. Dreams filled with soft colors, quiet sounds, and the feeling of being utterly safe and deeply loved. She slept soundly, softly, calmly, all through the quiet, peaceful night, tucked away safely in her little bed in the heart of the gentle forest. What was your favorite soft sound in Snow White's forest? Sleep well and sweet dreams.